Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Iblis Manifestations podcast. On this week's episode, it's my absolute privilege to have my friend AV, who is the singer and pretty much the main creative force behind the UK black metal band Abduction. Him and I had a very interesting conversation, actually, and we covered a lot of topics which I'm sure that you guys will enjoy. We talked about the value of competition, which I personally find is oftentimes overlooked when it comes into the circumstances of the underground scene or anything really nowadays. And we also talked a lot about, in typical Cheyenne fashion, I tried to dig into the deep waters and trying to reach an understanding of how he actually composes his music and the creative process that goes into creating the music Abduction, which can create such a sense of depravity and despair within the listener. So coming shortly will be that. And of course, we are now on episode 16 of Iblis Manifestations, which to me is crazy. I didn't even think I would make it this far. I know it's probably not a lot to begin with, but the support and the feedback which I've received in this time is extremely appreciated. Some of the interactions which have spawned from this podcast, some of the more interesting conversations which are actually unrecorded, which I've had with the listeners of the podcast, are some of the things I actually value the most that have come out of this, be it with supporters or even the guests themselves. Sometimes things continue after the episode is done. So I've actually very much appreciated what this has done. I appreciate every single one of you who listen to the podcast, give us your time, and I really hope that we're offering you something of value. Obviously, this is a free service, but you're still giving us your time. So I hope that it is worth your time whenever you listen to it. So, having said that, as always, all of the subscriptions and shares of the podcast are very much appreciated, and I welcome all of the feedback that you guys send our way. Now, without further ado, please allow me to welcome AV from Abduction to Iblis Manifestations. Nottingham, yeah. Nottingham was fucking great, actually. I had a really good show there. Is actually a really cool venue. I don't know. You came to the show,
man. That's why I'm asking.
Trivex shows, man. My head's all over the place normally when those are happening. It's like on one hand I'm super focused, and then on the other hand I'm on a different planet. It's a very weird paradox that occurs in those days.
I completely understand. I think I do remember you. I was stood next to Jaff at the front, and you spat all over us.
Oh,
Jaff says to remind you about that. So
was this during the show?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I was going to say, that'd be pretty hostile, just me coming at you outside for no reason, just like spitting at you guys.
No, that I might have had a problem with, but no, part of the show, man, I'll let you get on with it. It's okay. It's all
sure
good.
Thing, yeah. Well, listen, first of all, welcome to the show. It's a real pleasure to have you on, man. And then the second thing is, it's really good to have you on, but without your mask. So I think this is actually the first people are seeing you properly. Obviously I've known you for a few years now, at least, but this is a kind of a big deal for you to come out with your face out on behalf of Abduction.
Yeah. No, thanks for having me, man. I've been listening and watching for a while, and we know each other anyway, and it just seemed like a good time, really, and I'm glad you've obliged. The mask, yeah, well, I think it's just too hot today. It's seriously too hot today. I think we need to probably tell anybody who's listening that it was the hottest day ever yesterday. I'm sure they'll know if they live in England, but it's still very, very, very warm today. So you've got your top off, you've got your tits out. I haven't got my tits out, but I've got my face out. So
yeah, you normally charge for yours, right?
There's normally an entrance fee to see my
That's
face.
it. Yeah, you gotta be on the guest list or something. No, I appreciate. Like, listen, for anyone else listening, he is absolutely right. It is a fucking warm right now. Now, I know some of you might think, "Oh, isn't this guy from the Middle East? He's supposed to be able to tolerate this." Fuck no, absolutely not. First of all, I'm from the mountains area of the Middle East, and second, this is fucking bullshit. It's way too warm, and yeah, it's like it just makes you not want to do anything. So. Yeah.
Yesterday was horrendous, man. It was just nothing. You couldn't do anything, and you couldn't move anywhere. I don't know. I mean, I don't know about your house. Not many people in this country have air conditioning in their house. I'm sure you don't. I don't.
I don't live in a house, actually.
It was just okay.
I live on the ground.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's nice, but that's probably pretty cool then. No, my house was unbearable yesterday. It's a little less unbearable today, but it's still pretty shit. So I mean, that was part of the reason, because it just it wouldn't make sense, and I would be dying here, and I'd be going, can we cut this short? Can we chill? Whatever. But also, I think. I don't know. I think that maybe that ship sailed a little bit. I think with Abduction, I'm always going to have the mask. I'm going to have some kind of something. It's very important to me, but I'm not I'm not tied to the anonymity anymore, particularly, which I really was in the early days. But I think there's a natural progression with these things, and this just seems like the right time. With the new record and everything else coming out, it's just just easier. Just easier to just talk to you instead of just pretend to be something which it just would be disjointed in this situation. I think really the more I think about it.
That's quite interesting, actually. So I mean, for anyone listening to this, whether you're a fan of Abduction or not, or if this is your first time discovering the band, I remember. So the first time we actually met properly was back in Birmingham, December 2018.
And I borrowed all your equipment.
Yes. It was just you on your own. You were still a solo band back then, even as the live performance. It was you, it was us, and then it was Necronautical, Russ, who I just had 2 episodes ago. And it was fucking great. I mean, it was a tiny ass show in Birmingham, and I think both you and us actually played Bloodstock Festival that year, but then we were still doing these really small shows. It was at the Hammer and Anvil in Birmingham Town.
I was just going to ask you, Hammer and Anvil, that's the one. Yeah,
it's not around anymore. I think the venue was shut down a couple of years ago or something, but it was an interesting place.
It was a Sunday Eve, and I think I had a show. I think I'm mixing up 2 memories here, but I had a show with, I played guitar with Absentropy for a while, and I think I had a show with them on the Saturday in either Bristol or Plymouth or something like that, and came back on the train by myself, and then played that show with you guys. And
that actually sounds right.
I think I had to leave before Necronautical because of last trains on a Sunday and shit. But yeah, those were the days playing solo shows, which not many people still do. So,
but you sounded great. I remember actually, I think being outside with my guys from the band and hearing you playing and saying to them this actually sounds all right. Wow. Cool.
Yeah. Thanks, man. I figured out a way of doing it that was, the logistics of it, the mechanics of it, that's just really simple. You can, if you go see a solo anybody, there's all sorts of backing behind them and different things to sync things up and stuff. I didn't want any of that. I just wanted literally playing stuff from my phone, with a clever cable setup.
It was interesting. And when I say that as well, that me saying to my guys, oh, this actually sounds good. I'm not trying to sound arrogant or anything. I'm pointing this out. The context is that every time, most people who know me, is that every time there's a band playing, 99% of the time my reaction is, oh, that sounds shit. So the 1% where I turn around and say, oh, this actually sounds kind of good. That's a huge compliment, but also by this point, obviously Abduction was yet to be as well known as it was even a year or 2 after that, but already by that point, even though you were opening the show, you had released 2 of your albums. You had released, was it A Crown of Curses?
Yeah, Crown of Curses.
Yeah. And To Further Our Dreams of Failure, your first record.
Right.
So you had already released those two, and you had played the Jägermeister stage at Bloodstock that year.
Was it like, yeah, maybe it was that year. Yeah.
I think it was 2018, if I'm correct.
That was a fucking crazy show, man. I mean, I know it's the Jaeger tent is the smallest one, but for one guy, it's, I just remember, like, you know what it's like when you play and it becomes a fucking blur of just energy. But I remember looking out and seeing a full tent, which I was obviously very pleased with. Oh my God, that's fantastic. And then I could just see beyond the tent, just rows and rows of people. And it was like, fuck, they've all come to see this. Like, that was an incredible little moment.
No, I think a lot of the people who, because like I said, we played the same year as well. I don't think it was the same day or anything, but
you did.
Yeah.
You did the New Blood stage, right?
Yeah, we did. Like the way they fucking put us on there as well. I'm not complaining, but it was literally like just as our set was ending, Emperor was going on main stage, and then priest after them. Yeah. But it worked out. It's still a really great day for us. But what I was trying to get to was that a lot of people, even after the festival was done, everyone was talking about this guy in Abduction, who played Jägermeister stage, and how everyone was watching it. And I thought that was really cool how you were doing this thing solo, but playing this kind of really, obviously it's black metal, but your music has this sort of very desolate kind of edge to it. There's this really real internal feeling of despair, I find, so it was kind of cool how all of these people had appreciated what you put together there. And there seemed to be a lot of buzz around it. And obviously, within a year of that, after we did those shows together and everything, you basically put together a full band when you released your third record the year after, if I'm correct, right?
That's right. Yeah. All Pain is Penance. Yeah.
So how did that come about? How did you even go about going from a solo project to actually putting a full band together?
It's very naturally, if I'm honest. I mean, it could. That sounds like it could be a really torturous ordeal, like taking it from me to five guys. But I've tried to make things as simple as I can all the way through. Same with the backing track and all the rest of it. But I had a little bit of money from the label to spend on that record, and that's the first time anything's happened like that. So the record, so All Pain is Penance sounded a lot better, overall production wise, and that sounded elevated beyond the previous two records. And as I was recording it, I was just thinking, this sounds fucking great. I'm really happy with this, but like, how do I do this justice just by myself? Like, it's, they're all real instruments. They're all played. It's not on that record, there's not, it doesn't sound like a one-man band. It sounds like a full band because it's essentially is a full band. My good friend Ed played drums on it and I did the rest. But, so it very quickly, during the weekend of that recording, just came to like the realization that I actually do need to put a band together now. And I was really fortunate in that, people were giving me decent gig offers and things like that. And there's a real sort of slow ladder that I've been climbing, and the next couple of rungs were sort of being able to be seen and being offered, some things being offered. So it was really natural. So, I mean, the only way I wanted to do it was if I just still do everything and then get some of my closest friends who are happy to just come along for the ride, I don't want to do blind auditions and fucking get people from all over the country and stuff like that. I just basically looked in my own backyard and at friends of mine and people that I know that I knew would be able to do it, and said, look, this seems to be a bit of interest in this. Do you want to get on board? You can just come along for the ride. I'll take care of everything and I'll write everything and all the rest of it. And that was pretty much it, really. I've got a fucking cool bunch of best friends that are like, yeah, let's do it. So that's been the way. It's a fascist dictatorship. That's what it is.
That's the thing I was going to be getting to.
I'm the Pol Pot. No, I'm not the Pol Pot. Fucking hell.
Yeah, no, but I understand.
I'm the guy at the top, and those guys are very happy to just come along for stuff, and I constantly check with them if they're still, are you still happy to just do this? You know, is this okay? And that's how it's been running for the last couple of years. The latest record is a similar scenario, except we used my actual drummer. Same studio, 2 days, did everything.
The drummer that you've got live, basically.
Yeah. He plays in Heathen Deity as well, Mr. Adam Grace.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so that's, and then fast forward, we've done a couple of cool things in the last couple of years. We had a whole summer in Europe planned, like before COVID. You know, we had Throne Fest, and which we played this year.
Yeah,
that was booked for like, this is just like a third version of it that we've ended up actually playing. So we had that, and we had a few things. There was something in France and something else in the Netherlands, and there was going to be some dates in between and stuff. And then obviously when the shit hit the fan for the rest of the world, most of that just evaporated, which is a shame. But yeah, some of that we've had to manage to pull back from the brink of despair, like Throne Fest.
That was like your last show, wasn't it?
That was.
Wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, it was fucking cool, man. It was a very early slot, but I mean, we're the smallest band on that huge bill.
I mean, it was a great fucking lineup. You know what I mean? It's a prestigious festival. So
I was just frustrated that we couldn't get there on the Friday, because one of my favorite bands is Black Salice, and has been for the last few years. And they played on the Friday, so I didn't get to see them. But I've seen them. It's all right. But yeah,
sure.
Yeah, so it's that's the answer to your question, plus a bit more. Yeah, that's it sort of moved from there, really. I mean, it's a different setup to Trivax, really. I think it's been you and Sully for a while, hasn't it? And then
actually, it's been me and my drummer Matt. Me and Matt have been playing together for over fucking 10 years now, and Sully joined us.
I'm sorry. Okay, I thought
2018.
Sully, yeah.
Because me and Sully have a similar background, everyone assumes that him and I have been playing together for like 20 years. But to be honest, we may as well have been. You know, we do have that.
Okay. Connection. Yeah, I made that mistake. No worries.
Yeah. No, but it's cool, man. And I think so. To me, you know, when I saw the reaction that you had at Bloodstock in 2018 at the Jägermeister stage, it seemed like sort of the right progression from there was to actually then become a full band, because there's always that thing in your head of, oh, this is really good. There's a lot of potential. But this could really work as a full band, you know, because it's one thing doing that on, say, a stage, on a smaller stage, you know, in a tent, you know, it creates a great exhibition, I feel.
Yeah.
But I think it's a different thing to then go on a main stage. And then perform, you know. I think
there's no way I could have done what I was doing on the Jaeger stage on the main stage just by myself. No way. I mean, I'm not at that stage yet, but you know, we're somewhere in the middle, and it kind of goes up and down depending on the show. But
no, I think you're being too modest there, man. You know, I think you now have the potential, you know, and I think that this is the thing that I was going to get to, that even though that seemed like it would be the expected natural progression, from what you're saying to me now, I also get the impression that the reason why you created the full live band was also just because purely it is what was going to serve your artistic vision in a live format, just to be able to play the material in the way that they're supposed to be played, which is, I think, a different thing to maybe people expecting you to then make a band and then doing it just for the sake of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah. I mean, it's just a natural progression, and it's you know, that you create something, you create art or music, and then you either choose to do nothing with it and keep it in your bedroom for the rest of your life, or you go, how do I present this to the world? And the answer to that question will vary, you know, depending on what the art is. But it's I don't know. I've been fortunate and had a slow climb, I suppose. So, I mean, it's weird. I mean, I didn't even start Abduction with anything like, you know, any intentions of doing anything, really. I just had some tracks on a computer that I hadn't done anything with. And, it becomes it's turned into something that it was never intended to be. You know, it's we're not headlining main stages or anything yet, but it's become. The more you do, I mean, I've always had this creative output. You know, this musical output, this weirdo artistic streak. And yeah, I think why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I go slightly bigger? Why wouldn't I try and push a bit harder? Like, of course you would, you know. And it's you could argue, oh yeah, but it's, you know, only underground is real or whatever. And that's fine. But
Yeah.
I don't give a shit what anyone else thinks. Like,
yeah, I am not at all a follower
about the stuff I'm doing, about the music I've made and what it looks like on the covers, and how I design a t-shirt and what it sounds like, how much reverb I need to put on the vocals. I only give a shit about that. I don't care about what anyone else thinks about where it should be on a fucking pyramid.
Yeah, I think so too.
So
yeah,
if somebody comes along the way and says, well, let me help you do more of what you want, you know, let's give you half the budget for the album, or let's give you a record deal or whatever, then, you know, as long as there's no creative intervention or any kind of any quashing of what would naturally occur anyway, then fucking yeah, of course, use the platform. Sure. Like, I think that's this. We'll see where it goes, but.
Yeah, 100%. Listen, I'm fully
Why
with you
wouldn't
on
you
that.
answer, you know?
Yeah, I'm not at all a follower of that communist mentality within underground music, where it's like everyone has to be at the same level, you're all the same. This and that, and I don't fucking get that at all. I think if you want to grow as a band, you know, first of all, it's your art, and first and second, it's not easy to grow as a band, at least externally. You know, you can only do what's genuine to you and what works for you, and that's the only thing that I think everyone always says. It's like, when you're doing art, you got to be true to yourself and anything, but yeah. I honestly think that doing it like that is really the only way that makes it sustainable long term anyway. You know, that's why you always get bands that they might get a buzz for a little while, but then fucking fizzle out because they're just not being honest with their work, you know? And I think this is why it's important for everyone to do that, regardless of what fucking genre you're even playing. But I also think that if you then have the opportunity, like you said, to grow the band and to go further, then again, that's your choice, but I really don't see why you wouldn't want to do that, you know, or people who are afraid that too many other people might listen to their music, or they're afraid of getting big. That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah.
I mean, at least
it's ridiculous, this idea of like, oh no, too many people listen to this. No, fucking whatever. Like, yeah. And the idea that it's like, it shouldn't be a competition. Like, I'm sorry, but it just is. Like, whether you like it or not, it just, I mean, I remember when I was in secondary school, and you know, I was a pretty good guitarist, just playing Slayer riffs and stuff, and like there was a guy who could play all the fucking Metallica solos, and I was furious. I was like, right. You know, and it wasn't that fucking classic thing of like getting girls or anything like that. I was just like, fuck it, no, he's the best guitarist in the school, I'm going to be the best guitarist in the school. And
gotcha.
That's kind of probably the first example I can think of going, no, well, like, why would you not want to get better? Like, I'm not talking about selling houses. I'm not talking about fucking offering loans and getting commission. Like, I'm talking about creating stuff. And it's firstly, why wouldn't you want to get better at your instrument? Secondly, why wouldn't you want to dedicate your whole life to something fun that you enjoy if you can? You know, I mean, I've come from a lot of the DIY kind of music scene and, you know, the underground music scene since I was 15, 16 anyway. So I get it. You know, I get playing shows to no one, and I get playing shows where there's no like particular headliner, and, you know, and playing shows in squats across Europe in my early years with other projects and things like that. Like, I get it, but like, this is my art. Of course I want to push it in as far as I can go. Of course I can. Of course I want to. I don't understand why you wouldn't. Oh no,
Exactly,
sorry. I don't want to do that. Make that choice because too many people might like it. What the fuck does that mean?
Yeah, or that you're afraid that you might then get criticized for like selling out or whatever the fuck that's supposed to even mean anyway.
If I wasn't,
and we're having these conversations as two legitimate underground bands.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just fans of the underground, and still, we can still recognize that this way of thinking is completely fucking bullshit and unnecessary. It's just people who get uncomfortable when they see other people progressing and growing, and I think that's all it is. You don't want other people to grow past your own comfort zone, and you want to feel like you've got some kind of a stronghold on them. And as soon as they start growing, it's like, ooh, these guys, you try and find something to like, some way to like throw rocks at them. You know what I mean? You always see this even within the scene, not just even people who are fans, but even from other musicians. Sometimes you get these kind of approaches, that you're trying to bring other people down just because you're afraid of how they are actually progressing, and there's very few. The scene in the UK, generally speaking, is very, it can be quite nice. Actually, yeah, it's okay. But it's also the thing that, I do like your mindset on that. Is like, why wouldn't you want to get better? Why wouldn't you want to get better at your instruments, and things like that? And that this is the kind of thinking I'm much more pro, if you will, especially in the context of a scene like this, because it increases not just the quality of your own work and your own band, but if you play with other bands, and then you kick their ass, they watch you, then they're like, okay, I want to do better now. You know what you just mentioned about the guy who was the best guitar player in school, and you wanted to be the best guitar player in school. It is exactly.
Wasn't for very long.
Good. Yeah.
No,
you mentioned about how it wasn't for getting any girls. I'm pretty sure that in this day and age, playing Slayer riffs isn't going to get you any girls at all. But so
maybe Metallica riffs nowadays, though.
No riffs. Just throw away the fucking guitar and put on a fucking rap chain, and talk about how you're going to shank your neighbors. That'll be much better.
Master of Puppets has had a resurgence, hasn't it? I don't know if you've seen that, but
I have. It's good. I think many of my friends are unhappy about it, but I think it's good.
Why though? So more people get into Metallica. It's not a bad thing, man. Like, who cares? No, I'm a firm believer in like the high tide raises all ships thing, and even on the DIY scene, you take the idea that it's not a competition. That like it is, when that touring band from Europe plays on your local show, who are fucking, you're a small underground band who are, finding their feet, and you play a European touring band who are on a label. Oh my God, they're on a label. And they come and they shred the fuck out of it. And you go, oh my God, they're amazing. Then it is a competition because you've decided those are better than you. And then you envy them, and then you want to get better. And then everybody gets better. like it's just, there's a process there. It's
sure.
The end result is either better music or whatever. It's positive. That's what I'm saying.
And speaking of labels, you have recently just signed with Candlelight. So congratulations for that.
Thank you very much. It's pretty weird to be having conversations with people who are the label managers for Emperor.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, that's exactly
what our friends in Necronautical and Winterfillet and all the rest of it. So, yeah,
that's right. Well, that's exactly one big step towards exactly what we were just talking about now. So tell me, what are the plans looking like? Because you do have an album on the way as well. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, sure. Well, the album was written last June. So the album was written last January and recorded last June. Mm-hmm. So I've been sitting on it for a year, which is historically for me a long time. If you look at the previous albums when they've come out, it's been a handful of weeks until they've been released from recording to release, working with, like Death Cult Productions or Inferno Profundus and stuff like that. So the smaller labels obviously do things a lot kind of faster, and because of production times and all the rest of it, they want to get in the front of the queue for vinyl pressings and things like that. So for to be 12 months and even more now because it won't be out this month. It'll be out in a couple of months. So it's a long time for me, and it's sending me a little crazy, if I'm honest. I've not listened to any heavy music for a long time. I've not recorded anything for a long time. I think I've just kind of dripped off the radar a little bit. But the process of getting it ready is great. You know, working with Candlelight is fantastic. Everything is ready. I can't officially tell you a release date yet, but it's not out yet. It's going to be a couple of months, let's say. We just finished a video for the first single a couple of weeks ago, and I saw the final edit of that yesterday. That is fucking cool.
Yeah.
That's
your first video, right?
Yeah. So we've done little things before that we've shared on Facebook, but this is the first proper video, and it'll be on YouTube and it'll be on the Candlelight channel or whatever, and it'll do fairly well. If you look at the Necronautical videos and the Winter Philip videos, they're getting a good few thousand views and stuff. So I'm hoping that this will do fairly well. But I'm just pleased because this is a new endeavor. You know, it's an extra arm to the creative body, I suppose. You know, you can make audio and you can perform live and stuff. And I've always wanted to do something where I can do it justice visually. And
how much influence did you have on the creative process of the video?
All of it.
Right. Okay.
100%, all the time.
Cool. That's that, because obviously you have that approach with the music in Abduction.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why I wanted to know.
Candlelight are really cool. They don't have any creative input on anything, I don't think. I mean, I'm sure if I did something that they thought was utter shit, they'd tell me. But no, they're very
so
happy.
no pink dresses and ballet dancing then.
No, that's the second single. Well,
okay, sure. I look forward to that.
Yeah. But no, it's been great. I mean, they approached me, so we just rewind back a little bit. They finished the album in June, and I wanted to approach some bigger labels. Basically, I was quite happy with what I've done with Inferno Profundus, but I thought, you know, now's the time to push up a little bit, just to see what comes back. And I had a couple of rejections from people that I'd like to work with, which is a horrible thing. You know, labels that you admire. I won't mention any names, but yeah, sort of like, no. You're like, fuck. I was really hoping for that. No, we spoke to quite a few people.
You daydream about it, don't you? And you expect like, oh, imagine making an announcement and mentioning that label's name, and then the label owner gets back to you and then says, no, I don't want to work with you.
Nah, sorry. Yeah, like, but no, with slightly stronger words and, you know, comments that you didn't need to hear, you know. But that's irrelevant. But
gotcha.
The point is that so Candlelight actually reached out to me. So they must have, I don't know where they heard from. I hadn't approached Candlelight yet. They were literally the next on my list. So there was a couple that I was going to email at the same time, and Candlelight was the one, absolutely, because of the Emperor connection. And they reached out to me anyway through our guitarist. So because they didn't know who I was, so I don't use my name on, you know, any credits or anything like that. If you know me, you know who I am. But like, if you don't know me, you probably struggle to find my name. So they reached out to our guitarist, because he's called Jack Armstrong and he's fucking everywhere.
Was at the gym with me last week.
He was at the gym with you last week. Yeah, he said you're a fucking monster. That's what he said.
He didn't do too bad himself, actually. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. He's gonna kill me for telling you that. Well, yeah, and then so they reached out to me and they said, you know, do you want to do something? And I was like, yes. I was going to talk to you anyway, and it just worked out perfectly. You know, the synergy was there. You know, it's got to feel right, and it felt right. So that's how we ended up with Candlelight. But then obviously these things take a long time with slightly bigger labels. So there's been lots of stuff behind the scenes. It's part of Universal, so it's like a chain of command, like where Candlelight is, you know, for me is a fucking big deal, but actually that's like the smallest branch of a really big tree. So yeah, that's been
but still, whatever it is, it's one step bigger than what you did before, and I can certainly appreciate it will be a great opportunity for you guys, so there's, that's all good, right?
It's all good. I'm just I'm at the point now, because before anything comes out, I start to get a little bit anxious about it. It's not that I give a shit what people think, but I have to make sure things are right, because I'm in control of everything. I
relate to that.
It's quite a lot of pressure, I suppose, and this time, with the video and everything else, it's all sort of built up. So I just want to get it out. I just want to get it out there, and then the pressure will be off. I don't care if it's entirely negative. It'll be out there, So yeah, there's a couple more things to do, like another video to do and things like that. But
is that before the release?
Yeah, the video for the first single will be out very soon. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, fantastic. Maybe it might just coincide with this episode coming out. Would you say?
How much do you do these in advance? Maybe I'll tell you.
This will be out on week commencing the 25th of July.
Okay, so maybe slightly after that.
All right, cool. Okay, well, to everyone listening,
yeah, you'll
keep your eyes peeled for the upcoming Abduction music video.
Yeah, man.
Killer.
I can't even tell you the album title yet. It's all in the wraps at the minute. I got a little bit told off the other day because I shared a picture of like a still of the video shoot, and the message I got was like, "Don't share that." It's like, okay, all right, sorry.
Well, I didn't even know that you were doing the video, and when I saw that picture, I thought, this looks like it's going to be killer. I can't wait to see this. So maybe it wasn't such a bad idea, and I'm sure other people thought the same. So. Yeah, but if you can, obviously, I know you can't disclose a lot of things, but just tell me a little bit about your creative process for this new one.
Yeah.
Just tell us a little bit how was it compared to the other stuff that you've been doing, because you have certainly grown a lot of experience, I would imagine, since your last record, and probably been through a lot, both creatively and what you've experienced live. I would dare say your best live moments have been since the previous album, and I always feel like these moments kind of inspire how your upcoming music is actually going to be like when you write it. At least that's how I personally relate to that. So how you see the progression that you took creatively to this new one.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I was thinking about this earlier because somebody asked me about this the other day, and I just reflected on it earlier, and I think most of the previous albums have all weirdly sort of fallen into two parts, a first half and a second half. I don't know if that's subconscious because I love vinyl or what, but they sort of, I think it's just because of how I write. So I tend to write 2 or 3 songs at once, and then there'll be a second part of that where it's 2 or 3 songs or 4 songs or whatever at the same time as well. So there's like 2 sessions, if you like, and as that has ended up being, it's sort of fallen into side A, side B on the previous records. And you can actually hear on the early stuff, they are different sessions, they sound different. But this is done the same thing unintentionally as well. And I sort of realized it like early on. I was like, oh yeah, fuck, I've done it on this one as well. So the track order is different, so it doesn't fall into side A, side B. It's all over the place. But the writing process, I think there's some different tunings on this album and things like that. So just little signposts that are, just show they're different. But I mean, they're music-wise, it's similar to All Pain Is Penance. There are some areas that I've just pushed a bit further. The things that I really liked about, and stuff that's come back from live performances. There are some extra bits of the things that I think are good on All Pain Is Penance, just to test it. But then there's also just some fucking weird experimental shit on there as well. Rhythms and ideas that I've never really tried before. There is a couple of guests on it as well. So No One from a band called The Sun's Journey Through the Night. If you know those guys, they're a well-known kind of raw black metal band.
I think the 3 of us are sharing the lineup next year at Fortress Festival, I believe.
Right? Yes. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Next June, I believe.
Yeah, that's going to be a fucking great show. So he guests. I guested on his album a couple of years ago, and he guested on my album. We're both on the final track of the album, which is a nice little touch. I was honoured to have him on there because I just wanted a different voice, and he has a very kind of just distorted, searing, like reverb delay kind of all the way, keeps reoccurring sort of voice. I wanted that on this particular bit, and he did a fucking excellent job of that.
Well, he naturally has all of those effects in his voice.
Not naturally, no. But I wanted that sound.
Never heard anyone talk with a reverb at all times.
These people just repeat themselves. There's the RM from Revenant Marquee as well, which is another really underground but very sought after black metal artist. Through the Death Prayer, Death Cult connection, and guests on one of the tracks as well, which I think will be the second single, but I'm not sure yet. He's on the track on there anyway. And that's great. You can hear him fucking straight away. he has a distinct sort of cavernous yowl. Just I'm not doing it justice, but you can hear it. I wanted that voice on it as well because I was like, yes, I need some of that.
Right.
Just to break things up a little bit here and there.
Well, I think it's interesting that out of the guests that you have actually brought in, you've brought in vocalists, considering that's what you do yourself live. You know what I mean? But I guess it's kind of your music, isn't it, in the studio? And if that's what you think is gonna fit in there, what I mean is like a lot of people would normally do that, or if they do, they regret it. Like I know, for example, I think Roger Waters regrets not doing the vocals on Have a Cigar. You know what I mean?
Oh, right. Okay.
It's that kind of thing, I guess.
Yeah. No, I mean...
not saying that you would regret it. I'm just saying it's interesting that you're prioritizing the art and the music itself enough to a point where you're like, actually, I would prefer to hear another person's voice here, and I think they could add something special to this track. And that's the point which I'm trying to commend. Yeah,
you're right. And these are really distinct vocalists as well. And I think this whole scene, this whole underground thing in the UK that's doing really well at the minute, by the way, they're almost characters, and it's the same for myself until I show my face, but they're almost these fucking inhuman characters, they're just beings, and those guys are extremely distinct in their approach, but very different, and very different to me. And I just wanted more of what I'm trying to achieve, but from different sources. I'm trying to concentrate stuff in a certain way, I suppose. I don't really know. But rather than have someone just come and do a guest guitar solo or whatever, there are no guitar solos on the album. So there's lots of lead bits, but there's no obvious solos. So
there is something special about that, like the inspiration that you can get from working with someone else who, I suppose, is like-minded, but also has a slightly different approach is invaluable. I think it's so fucking good. I can relate to that because for the next Tribex album, we actually had some guest vocals of one of the songs from our very good friend Bjorn, aka Wrath. He was on episode 5 of the podcast, actually.
From
One Tail, One Head, Beheg,
that's right.
Ritual Death. He did some guest vocals on one of the songs on the album. And actually, this was like maybe about last year when he recorded this. But when he did that, it sparked a serious thing in me. It was like, oh, wow, I am now hearing a song that I've written for a good few years. It's still not out yet, although it might be in a few months. Since we're dropping all the teasers on this episode.
How comes that next?
So and when I heard him and what he had done to my song, I was like, oh fuck, this is like I'm hearing my own music in a different way, because it's like it reminded me, it's like every person who listens to song always hears something completely different, and now make that millions of people across the world, and if you've got someone, like you said, who's like a seasoned veteran and they've been doing this for many years, and they've got their own approach to doing things, it adds such an interesting twist to stuff, and I think that's where it's really healthy for you and I to sometimes, if it's appropriate, take a step back and let those people, see just to see things from their perspective, and it's definitely, personally speaking, been a positive experience, and I can imagine it's the same for yourself. And the new album.
It is, and the songs, the music it's like a cooking pot, and I'm in charge of the ingredients. I'm in charge of how long it cooks for. I'm in charge of everything, and then occasionally just going to somebody else that you know and you respect, who does a good job with their own stuff. Just going, what can you put in there? And actually just relinquishing control for a little bit is actually really nice as well. Just to say, the response I got from RM was like, when I asked him, I mean, we talk a lot anyway with I would say with friends. I don't know if he'd call us that, but when I asked him initially, he was like, I'm thinking about this song around this point. Can you do something here? Talk to me about lyrics or whatever, however you want to do it. Let's go ahead. And his response was something along the lines of, I only perform rituals.
Yeah, I like that.
Sure. Yeah, great. Okay. So perform a ritual. Do what you need to do, man. Like that's perfect. Like we don't have to have a conversation about lyrics. Just do whatever, whenever, and I'll make it work. And what he did was perfect. I'm not discrediting that, but like it was just like just giving it up to someone else, for a little bit is really interesting. It's it's a strange process for someone who does everything themselves.
Sure, yeah.
I really like it. And I'm sure there'll be some more guests and things in the future with all the records and stuff. So
fantastic. Do you think that he might be?
Sorry, go on.
What were you going to say?
No, it's okay. Go on.
I was just going to say, if you think that this is something that might then translate to live as well, if that's something we can expect at all, like actual guest appearances on stage as well. And not, are you going to be doing those parts yourself now? Is what I was going to ask.
Neglected to mention, and that's my fault, that when we played the Lamp of Murmur show in London, we played the track with no one on, because The Sun's Journey Through the Night played with us as well. So he came on and did that track with us. That was the last track we played. There's video of that on YouTube actually. So
cool.
Check it out. That's he came on with his, with the mask and everything, and just fucking did his bit at the end, and it was fucking killer. That was such a cool show. Probably awesome. The best show I've ever played. That was the best show ever.
That was at the Electroworks, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I love that venue. We're going back there next. We're going back there next month. I love that place. Got lots of
it's cool. Yeah,
interesting memories. Venue.
It's just cold and like looks like it's like a former Soviet kind of bunker or something. It's it's a cool place. That was that, and he did a really good job. So we have done it live. I'm not sure if RM would do the Reverend Marquis stuff live. I have mentioned it before, but he doesn't really do anything live. He doesn't want to. He's quite happy living where he's living out the way and just making records. So I don't know. Maybe he will. We'll see.
Okay.
It'd be cool if he was in the video, though. That would be cool.
Is that a teaser?
It's nothing that I know of. Nothing that I can confirm or deny at the minute.
All right, cool. Excellent. Well, I'm sure people will be excited to keep an eye out on that. It's good to hear, man. I appreciate hearing your perspective on that as well. Because one thing, like I mentioned to you earlier, that I do actually really like about Abduction's music is that there's this real sense of despair, and I don't throw around the word in the generic sense, like when people do fucking album or live show reviews, there's always the pummeling riffs and then the whatever and
thunderous bass.
It's always the same shit. This kind of gets a bit boring, but I genuinely mean that from like it's like there's a certain feeling that I personally feel like I relate to, that you can't quite put your finger on it, but there's almost like a sense of abandonment. But it is a way of it's what it is that I think there's and obviously that's one of the good things about black metal, which I suppose, well, good thing or bad things, but it's subjective, I guess, but because it's art. But it's one of the things where in the format of art, you actually do get the ability to exercise these feelings, and to me, it's like, I remember coming, obviously coming over from Iran, like the first, I would even say 6 or 7 years that I lived in the UK was pretty damn fucking miserable, and this was like, in one sense, it was greatly triumphant because I was finally getting to do what I always wanted to do. But there was just this sense of isolation. I have very vivid memories of being at this bus stop in Birmingham that I always used to go to. And this was like, the bus stop was kind of like outside of town in the middle of nowhere. I always had to change there, you see.
Yeah.
And
I can imagine the sort of place.
Yeah. And it was always like, it was near the Great Bar area, actually, if anyone knows where that is. And I was used to stand at that bus stop, with my bass guitar on my back, and it was like all I could see was just like black sky above me and nothing and no one around. And, kind of being in that situation away from my family and everyone I knew, just on this supposed path, that it's making me happy, but it's also very unknown. And being in that situation, hence title songs like He Wandered Off to Nowhere. That's what that whole thing is about, which we still play today. Yeah. And, to me, it's not to say that sense has gone away, but especially I feel like there's a part of us that, like I said, there is that sense of isolation and abandonment. And I'm just curious as to what actually inspires you on that scale, particularly on an emotional and personal level, that actually helps birth these songs. Because in a sense, you're just writing cool riffs that they're cool, they sound good to hear, but what is it that personally connects you to these things? Because when I listen to your music, it takes me towards those kind of thoughts and those kind of feelings that I can sort of see parts of myself in, at least.
It's an interesting question. I think we all, to a certain or to a greater or lesser extent, struggle. Most of us struggle with things, and I can't sit here and tell you a traumatic time in my life or a particularly low point. I think really overall, I've probably been quite fortunate compared to other people. And I'm grateful for that. But there's always a looming sense of despair. There's always something inside that it sounds so cliche, but there's always a darkness inside. There's always something in there. There's always that moment where you stood at the bus stop, or you stood. You find yourself. For me, it's late at night, and that's how I started recording Abduction stuff. Was late at night, so I think that's probably the connection. But I mean, I can't really pinpoint anything particular. I am a very busy, restless sort of person most of the time. But if I stop and for a little bit longer than a few minutes, then your mind wanders. Then your mind kind of is free. I don't do meditation or yoga or anything like that, and I really think I'll probably get something out of that. But then I probably run out of miserable music to make. But I think I don't know. I don't have a solid answer for you there. It's a really difficult question. I know what you're saying. I find that in other people's music, and I think what I do is, with my, I suppose, like broad musical ability with different instruments and stuff, is try and replicate the things I like about other people's music. I don't mean I like rip it off, because I don't want to rip music off. But if I'm being honest, we're all inspired by different types of music, aren't we? So, and then we make our own music, which comes from something else. So for me, the other people's artists are the really, really horrible, miserable shit. Like I said, mentioned Black Celeste earlier. That becomes, listening to that late at night by myself becomes almost a transcendental experience for me. To most people that approach that music, it will just sound like garbage, and that's fine. It's a wasp in a tin can, but there's some sort of connection there with the melancholy riffs. There's the relentless pummeling drums, Cheyenne, pummeling drums. There's no thunderous bass because there's no fucking bass in that band. There's no need. But that takes me away. And like Parvesh N as well, a band called Parvesh N. Is a similar artist, but actually a much darker artist. I mean, there's some bordering on horrorscape and like dark ambient stuff. Like, I don't know if that's the right genre term, but that's what it sounds like to me. Those things, it fill me with a fire to make something, and maybe that's channeling from, I don't know. When I was growing up, I always had a lot of space. This is what I mean about being fortunate. I grew up in a fairly small town close to Derby, and there's lots of fields. There's lots of footpaths through the hills and through the housing estates and things like that. And I used to smoke a lot of weed when I was a kid as well. So you'd end up being spacey in the space. And, this was like my life for many, many years growing up. And I think the thing I've started with Abduction is just kind of going back to my youth. That's essentially what I'm doing. I've been through tons of different bands and different genres, and all of them extreme to either the fastest or the slowest or the most technical or whatever. In fact, pretty much a band for each one of them things. And when I started Abduction, it was a case of, I've got these drum tracks, let's go back to my youth. And that's sort of where it's come from. But yeah, I mean, I don't have any sort of, I'm not suicidal. I don't have any trauma that I need to deal with or anything like that necessarily. We all deal with lots of shit, and I'm very sympathetic to people that have more shit than me. Particularly at the moment, the world is completely fucked. But
I don't think you have to be to channel something like that, though.
Yeah. So
you can still feel it.
It's a mixture of the space and the time to wander, time for the mind to wander as a youth, and a reflection of just fucking what's out there. Like that makes you angry, either injustice or fucking just the left and right politics. And
what would you class as injustice in the world?
I don't know. I don't really want to get into like too much social specifics and stuff, but everybody's got a friend who's got some fucking terrible story about how somebody didn't help them when they needed to help them, whether that's a friend or a family member or the government or whoever. And look at the state of the economy, people, food banks, all of that sort of thing. Those things reflect on people. Just growing up in a city is pretty despairing. And the place I live in at the minute, we're actually moving house very soon, which is why this room is a shithole. I've turned this around so you can't see it, but this room is a shithole. I
wouldn't have known if you hadn't said.
I'm an open book now. And so people, so we're moving house because the area we live in has just got shitter and shitter and shitter. And it's easy to just look out the window and go, fuck you, you're fucking shit. You don't have to take care of your kids. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do this. But like, these are not necessarily personal problems. These are societal problems. So there's all sorts of things like that. At every level, I think most people are affected by, all of the last 2 years has been shit for most people as well.
Yeah, I think so too. And when you're saying that, I don't think
all these things just kind of filter in, and when it comes down to sitting with a guitar riff or recording some vocals, or writing lyrics, it just comes out as an escape from that, and it's, I don't care how you want to define that, but that's kind of just the process, really.
Yeah, sure. So it's a form of escapism, really. I mean, that's it. Listen, man, this is a common theme that pretty much most of the other musicians I've had on this particular podcast have said the same thing in that sense, in that regards, that it's just a big fuck you to the rest of the world, and
do
it's
what I want. And if I want to fucking sit and listen to Dungeon Synth and read Lord of the Rings, I will sit and listen to Dungeon Synth and read Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Onion Rings. No, listen, I think that's a great thing, but I would say that it's normal to feel that way. We have this sort of tendency, and this is I'm very self-critical, and this is actually one of the reasons why I've come to the conclusion that you can't just brush things under the carpet either. So if I see, like you said, if I see crackheads out my window, that makes me feel bad. One, because a part of you is that you don't want to be around it, but a bigger part of it, I think, is the fact that a part of you might think, why is humanity like this? How have we come to this point? Because we're very much social creatures. We function in communities, and I feel like the world is in such a state that, first of all, there's such divide between people, and there's so many people that it's like, many of us don't feel like we're a part of any sort of community or anything like that. And I think that is extremely dangerous because of a multitude of reasons. One of them being that if you feel isolated in such a way, then I think you can almost be of danger to yourself, and to others around you, because then you have no standards to go by and things like that. But also, it's because then we as people become easier to control. And I think that's the biggest problem of it. And that's also the part that, almost, not to go into conspiratorial territories, but, maybe this sort of thing is there by design, so that people feel divided.
I mean, the thing that is it
culturally speaking.
I mean, I totally understand. And you're absolutely right. The thing is, like, the constant questioning of yourself. You said you're self-critical, so you think, oh, is this natural? Is this by design? Is this? There's always something going on. We're smart enough to know that something is going on behind the scenes we don't know about. I don't know what that is, and I'm wise enough to know I don't know what that is. So,
sure.
But you can drive yourself crazy with these questions, and especially when you look outside or you go somewhere and that is amplified by your surroundings and the problems or something you see, and you kind of go, well, yeah. I mean, I don't want to disclose exactly what I do in my day job because I like to keep something secret, but I work in an area of work that sees firsthand this sort of, from a child's perspective, the deprivation and people who are in a position where they either have no help or they don't know how to get help, or they just don't give a shit. And there's all sorts of reasons behind that. And so I spend my working hours trying to fix those problems, if you like, or trying to counter those problems. I'm not a social worker, by the way. That makes me sound like I'm a social worker. I'm not a social worker at all. Yeah, and so when you do that in your day job, when you do that in your 35, 40 hours a week or whatever it is, and you come home and then you have some time to yourself and you let your mind wander, these are just the products of that, I suppose. The music you create, and the sense of community you're describing that people are often lacking. As cheesy as it sounds, like, you find that within music, you find that within the bands you play with, or the camaraderie between going to a festival with somebody or whatever. And those things are really, really fucking important, even if they're based around miserable music or, self-suicidal black metal or whatever kind of extreme art you're looking at. The actual fact you can go to a show, or you can go and talk to somebody about the latest Total Self-Hatred album or whatever, these are the things you can, these are incredibly important. I
100%.
think it's just a part of the reason black metal in the UK is doing so well at the minute, which it is. is art reflects real life reflects art. That is how it goes. So I think I think that's natural. I think that's pretty much long may it continue. Not actually, let's not say that. If it continues, that means that the problems continue. But then the music's really good. So
yeah, but this is the antidote to that,
Yes, it is. But you look at times of social unrest and throughout history, and you look at times of good music, and there's normally like parallel with a time of massive social upheaval.
I don't think it always has to be,
or the 80s punk stuff. All of that stuff is very often reflected in societal stuff. So
I don't think that it always has to be like that either. You can still get together and have a very sort of a fierce and firesome experience, but then doing just in celebrating freedom and just being together and just having the opportunity to share your music, and still being competitive about it, still being fucking like, demons on stage, and,
and you're right. I think I just came to the conclusion during that little rant that, so the UK black metal scene is probably the best it's been in, 20 years or something. I'm not quite old enough to remember 20 years ago, but
I've been here 10 years and I can, based on that time frame, I can 100% agree. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm happy to be corrected on this. I can only speak from my own perspective. But looking back through, gig lists or record liner notes, it doesn't appear that it's been as good as it is now in the lifetime I've been into music. So I'm 35. So, do what you like with them maths. And what I'm saying is it's probably a reflection of the shit in the social system. There's a shit in the country. Don't want to get into too many details, but people are looking for an escape. People are writing music. People have got ability to write music from their fucking bedrooms, like I did, and put it out there. And there's so many little fucking record labels that are like selling out vinyls on pre-order, and shows in the woods and shows down south and weekend festivals. They're all selling out, and international bands coming into the UK, and 400 or 500, 600 capacity venues selling out of weekends, that sort of thing. These are all really, really, really good things. These are all marks of a very bubbling and rising music scene, I think.
100%. And I think, that's... You mentioned something really interesting there, like about shows selling out and stuff. I was thinking about this earlier when you were talking about the sense of community that we have. There's obviously always going to be the logistical aspect of looking at a show, because you can't be in a band and not observe these things. Now, what you want to do with this information in your head or logistically is one thing, but you end up always looking at like, okay, so, how much did you sell on merch? How many people showed up? How do we do on the doors?
Yeah.
And to me, even if, because we sometimes might promote our own shows, even if we're not, I'll still always ask the promoter because I want to hear that they did well too. You know what I mean? It's not just, okay, let us play and then we'll take your money and fuck off. I want everyone to do well on this. Yeah. And another aspect of it is also that I try and remind myself of why I do this. And the thing that is most rewarding about it is actually that sense of community, which we talked about, is actually that I get to see the people at the shows and, that they decided, because time is precious, right? And you could, on one hand, say, well, you could decide to go out to a fucking Yates or whatever and get absolutely plastered on Sambuca, and go home with fucking bruises all over your legs. There's always there's that side of it too, but at the end of the day, it's people's choice to choose how they want to spend their time because that's your most valued currency. So if you, as a person,
people vote with their feet in this sector, if you like.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if you, as a person or anyone, chooses to come and spend their evening with us when we're playing a show, that I feel honored by that. I think that's fucking great. Yes, like there's everything about it. There's a lot of logistics and things like that. But at the end of the day, I'm mostly just happy that people are there.
Yeah.
Just the fact that you've decided to share this experience with us together, and that there is real human connection to that. Because I feel like the real beauty that you can find within metal, especially when it's not super politicized, which to me is kind of like, I get it. I get that people have their viewpoints left or right, but I also feel like sometimes that can be just missing the point as well.
Yeah, totally.
Because that when everything else is going on in the world, we have our own little circles where you get to gather and celebrate the moment, and you don't give a shit what that other person fucking believes in, until you meet them in the smoking area, and then they both, it goes downhill, and they open their mouth on, what they think about the current social climate. But generally speaking, I think it's a very beautiful thing, like even in Nottingham, when we were doing that show a couple of weeks ago, whenever it was, I was like, fucking, like even, it ended up being a good turnout, although it's still a pretty small venue. But even then, I was like, fuck yeah, every single one of these people, because I noticed like there was a few people there that weren't even metalheads, But to me, I'm like, that's fucking great. I'm glad that you're here. This, this is like, I'm getting the chance to express myself, and the more of you that are here, and the fact that you're staying through a fucking 60 plus minute set, that means the world. That's fucking great. Keep it up. And I think that's what's good about it, that we all get to share that, that we get to do these things away from the bullshit of the world. And that's the that's the most special thing, I think, about what we do. It almost like, it could change society with the power of black metal and this music if you really take it by that approach, because we do not give a shit what else is going on.
Yeah.
We do our own thing.
Yeah. No, I love that. It is always, I don't know how to honor everybody that comes to shows. And I'm always, I agree entirely with what you're saying. I just don't find, I constantly like, I feel like I owe everybody, you know what I mean? Their time or their money back or whatever, just because they've, spent some time. It's never been about other people, but that community and that camaraderie we mentioned, it's fucking crazy. I'm very conscious to make it not about anybody else, and I don't mean that in a sense of fuck everybody else, because I'm very, very fucking grateful to be doing what I'm doing. But it never started off like that way, and it's always just come from in here. I don't know where, but in here. But
I think that's the point, right?
I think that's the point, and but I will always share that. We'll share that moment with everybody. You see people at shows in fucking, like, eyes rolling back into their head sometimes, and I'm thinking, fucking hell, I want to be that guy. And
this popped into your head when you saw Trivex in Nottingham recently?
Depends if you're spitting in my face or not, Cheyenne.
Both. You get the full package with us.
Yeah, I mean, we get to share those beautiful moments is incredible. It's incredible. It's just I'm constantly like battling with like how I deal with that, and so Abduction. I've been in bands for years, like I said, but Abduction, when we did the last few shows last autumn, we played like 3 shows down south, and but 2 out of 3 was sold out, and which is incredible.
Awesome,
really happy, and but there's more shows, so I'm getting ready at the merch stand, and the makeup and everything. And until now, nobody knows my face, unless you know me, which is probably quite a few people, to be fair. But the strangers would come up to me and see me getting ready, and then that'd be the first time I had a proper interaction with them about Abduction, about the music, and that it was actually quite overwhelming, and not to take anything away from anybody that spoke to me, because thank you, lovely, let's talk again. But it's actually And after the York show as well, I think you were at the York show. I went to the merch room at the York show, and like there was just a queue of people buying merch. And Nino, our good friend Nino, was selling the merch for us. And like then I was
yes,
sort of people just trying to talk to me, like 5 or 6 people at once, and it was a little bit like, I was like, fucking hell, I'm sorry guys, I need to go. And I've never ever had that before. Never had that kind of attention before. So it's that was a new thing. So I want to share it with everybody, but maybe one at a time. maybe that's the answer. But that was a very new thing, and I'm assuming that the more we do, the more that will be the case. If we're on an upward trend, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I have my own views of that. When it concerns actually like meeting people and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I'll always try and I'm always happy to see people, but it's just there's a couple of moments in the last year or so where we've played amazing shows to sold out shows where people have come up and it's been a little bit too much. And I don't know what the fuck, and that's going to make me sound like a prick on here. And I really hope it doesn't, but like, it is weird, because I made these tracks in, aren't they? Like by myself, for myself in my bedroom. And then suddenly you play a show to 300 or 400 or 500 people and you've got a queue of people trying to talk to you. And I'm like, I've just played a show. It's like you just played a show. The adrenaline is kind of wearing out and it's a little bit of whoo. Now I'll come back later. It's fine.
It's a very intense thing. Well, listen, I'm gonna
like I am a dickhead, but I'm not.
No, I'm gonna round this up in a way that I think will make sense to a lot of people, and I think you'll probably agree with me on that as well.
Rescue me, Cheyenne, rescue me.
I think Cheyenne to the rescue.
Yeah.
I think the thing of it that happens is, and this is exactly what I was mentioning about this kind of music and what makes it special, is the fact that you're obviously you've got the community surrounding it, but you're not doing it for that community. You're doing this first and foremost for yourself. And this is earlier in the podcast, I also mentioned that being genuine and sincere about what you do should be the only way that you do this.
Yeah.
And the only way for that to work is if you write the music for yourself and for your own enjoyment. But what makes this music special is the fact that the people who will enjoy it, they will enjoy it because they can see the honesty and the authenticity in your expression, right? And I think that's the thing that brings us all together. That's why, to me, the key to having a show that is enjoyable for the audience should be us enjoying it on stage.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But us enjoying it on stage means that we have to prioritize ourselves first and what makes sense to us. And then if we can create that fire between the three of us, it's like an invisible thing that happens when we're playing, where the temperature just rises and then you can feel the room just almost moving naturally, whether there is anyone else there or not. But then if there's other people there, then it's almost like you can just sort of like, you can feel them getting involved in this thing that is building in between all of us. And that's the magic of music. I feel like there's like a whole scientific / spiritual aspect to that no one fucking talks about. Even like, what the fuck is even going on? Why?
Yeah, we didn't even get to that.
It's a crazy thing that happens at shows, and it's not really genre specific, this thing that happens, but it seems if you get this particular style of music right, by this particular style of music, I actually mean rock and roll more than anything.
Yeah.
But if you get the rock and roll style of music down in a way that responds that way, that it seems to do magic to people. It seems to do magic to the performers, to the people who are present in the audience. And, whether you're just spectating or participating, obviously you're going to get more rewards out of it too, but it can be almost life-changing. Like every show can have a tremendous impact. And I think all of this starts from your own core personal expression of the music that you do for yourself mostly, and then taking that out and putting it out there is like you put your heart on a fucking plate and put it in front of people.
Yeah.
Now they can respond to it however way they fucking want. But if the response is good, that is one of the most rewarding fucking things in the world. And I think that's probably where you're mostly trying to come from when you're sort of discussing the balance of doing it for yourself, but then also being grateful for having a positive response. I think that's kind of what it is. It's that you've already won by expressing yourself. Now, if other people like it too, that's a huge fucking bonus. And I think that's kind of what it is,
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's a moment before I made a post about this before we played Damnation last year, and I think people seem to resonate with it. But I'll try and paraphrase it. But this is before what you're describing, but it encompasses it. So basically, there's a moment where I stand like before we go on stage, and I put the mask on, and I've done the makeup, and I put the hood on and everything. And there's a moment where I fucking stood there by myself in a pub toilet or a fucking, corridor to a fire exit or something. And I'm stood there and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? What am I doing? This is not like football. This is not like, I don't know, fucking yoga classes or whatever. This is not acting classes. This is like, what are you doing? You stood here, you've made this fucking mask, you've put your makeup on, you've done everything, you've made all the music, blah, blah, blah. You've stood here. What am I doing with my life? I've got a human skull in my hand. What am I doing with my life? And I have to have a little moment with myself where I go, this is what you came for. This is what you do. This is what you've turned into. This needs to happen. And sometimes, I don't know if it's nerves or if it's anxiety or what, but there's you have to have a little moment with yourself and go, no, these people are fucking paid to see you. This is why you're here. You like, people do give a shit. So you fucking better get out there and do what people are expecting of you. And but there is a bit of a moment where you feel a bit silly. Do you know what I mean? and then once I've had that moment with myself, I'm fucking fired up, and I'm like, let's go. Of course, that's what I'm here to do. That's the only thing I know how to do. That's the reason I've got a little bit of success. That's why people are interested, because I'm the man for the job. People think I'm okay. Like, people, there's a demand for it, So once I've done that, I'm all right. But
I'm not too sure on doing something.
And then it starts with other people, and then the motivation builds, and then you go.
Yeah, that's it. I'm not too sure on doing something just because there's a demand for it, but I think I do understand what you're saying about the.
No, but it's that process of it's for yourself, and then it's for the people, and then it's just for the greater good, I suppose.
Reminding yourself that there are others who actually give a shit about what you do and stuff. But listen, first and foremost, you got to give a shit about what you do. Then it's kind of like, okay, well, if they like it, that's great. If they don't, I'm gonna make them like it. But it's like, no, what I mean is,
I will make them like it.
You better like it, motherfucker.
You don't like it, fucking leave. It's fine.
Yeah, hospital's only half a mile away from here. But no, I think what I'm thinking as well is that I've never had the moment where I've been like, oh, this is silly, but you do have doubts. It is like, I mean, for me, just to prove how much I can understand and relate to what you were saying, it's like I could have had hang on, disclaimer before I say what I'm about to say. I do not regret a single thing, right? But in another life, I very well could have actually stayed over in Iran, and I actually had better opportunities over there as far as a career is concerned. And you know what? I probably would have been able to live a much, much, much more comfortable life.
Yeah.
And I certainly would have, I would have faced a lot less poverty, let's say, than I will have done in the UK, because things are harsh over here. And, it's a tough world if you don't know many people, which when I first moved here, I knew not a single person. And,
You've done amazing. You've done fucking amazing.
Thank you. It's a work in progress, but I appreciate that.
It's always a work in progress.
Yeah. And the thing is that, I could have done that, but I still decided to come here. But then it's not that I came here just to like study and have like a normal job. I've come here to fucking play black metal in front of like fucking, small crowds and stuff like that. For the most part, even if you make it big, it's still actually really small. Exactly. Even if you're the biggest black metal band in the world, that's still not very big in the great scheme of things, so for me, it's like I've had to have that conversation with myself a lot, where it's like, you're doing something and then you doubt. It's like, oh, am I really, like, what are we doing here? And then it's like you said, wearing clothes that are covered in mold, and, you're covering, you've got like blood all over you, and then everything smells and you feel sick, and you're about to go on stage and you feel like there's a raging thing. But it's like, you can have moments of doubt, but the fact that you still come to the same conclusion that, fuck yeah, this is exactly what I want to fucking do.
I don't know if it's doubt. It's not doubt, I would say. It's more like just a clarity.
But you question it.
Like,
you take a moment. It's like, are we really fucking doing this? Like, what are we doing here?
You stood in a greasy pub kitchen that's no longer used.
Yes.
And oh man, there's black everywhere. Like, like, what are you doing with yourself? But no, you're absolutely right. And once you get out there, once you fucking switch it on, or you find it wherever it is, it's all good. Obviously, it's all good. And I wouldn't want to be doing anything else. It's not doubt for a moment. It's not doubt for me. It's just a like a brief moment of, what the fuck? What is this? Like, But yeah,
but I think the doubt exists.
No one can
spiritually, like a lot of religions say, like doubt is the greatest sin of all. It's this and that. But to me, it's like, I welcome that, because I feel like it's only going to get me closer to something. So the fact that you take a moment to really question something, and you question your life for a second, but then you still go ahead and do the thing anyway. That is exactly what makes
Cheyenne, that is what you do. You go and do the thing, because that's what you know how to do, and you're the best at it. And that's what I know how to do, and I'm okay at it. Like that's
nicely. Yeah, I wouldn't see what you did there.
Else. And anyway,
no, I appreciate that, man, and 100%. And I think this is a good thing. And I feel like people who come to the shows who might not even be in a band themselves or be a musician, because you don't have to be a musician to fucking enjoy this music. And I really hope that anyone who's in that situation who might be hearing this right now, perhaps maybe this will offer them an even better perspective, that when they attend the show, like how much it means to the artist, for the artists themselves, first of all, to actually fucking be there, to have been asked to, hey, like, can you come and play this show, and this and that. That opportunity of its own is a really valuable thing, and I'm not saying do gigs for free either, but just saying, like fucking that there's that mentality that goes into it that is really, really fucking beautiful, and I appreciate that we are like-minded in that regard. I think that's good. Yeah, definitely, man. So obviously, we've talked a lot about the sort of the creative process of Abduction, and everything you've done. You've signed with Candlelight. You got a new album coming out soon. We covered a little bit of where you've been, where you've come from, and where you're headed. So let's round things up by... What's that?
We talked a lot about me.
Well, that's the idea.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
This is the thing. I just wanted to kind of round things up, and if you can give any specific details as to what you've got coming up, what you'd recommend people to check out if you want them to support your work, see what you've got going.
Yeah, this is the shout out bit, isn't it?
It can be if you wanted to. Have you got any sponsors?
Take a moment for our sponsors.
Athletic Greens.
Abduction.bandcamp.com.
Sorry, could you repeat that again, please?
Abduction.bandcamp.com. Everything's on there. And obviously the Candlelight Records, they'll have their own posts and their own links and stuff soon. But yeah, Candlelight Records is obviously the one. That's the big one. So, yeah, I mean, we've got, like I said, a video coming out very soon, next couple of weeks. I don't know when you'll air this, but I think it'll be 2 weeks roughly from when you air it. Mm-hmm. So that'll be the first single from the new album. I want to tell you the album name. I want to give you the artwork to put on the screen and all the rest of it, but I can't do any of that yet. I'm sorry, because I'll get told off.
You can do it when we go off the call, though.
Anybody? Yeah, I might just do that. Yeah. Just thanks to everyone who's listened, because if you got this far, then I really, really, really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Same here, actually. Yeah, same here. Anyone who's made it this far, thank you.
Yeah, make sure you go and say hi to Shine at Traffic Show. Do come and say hi to me. I won't be as negative as I was about 5 minutes ago. I'm getting used to it. But yeah, it's all looking good, man. We've got loads of things coming up in terms of like the Fortress thing you mentioned next year. That's going to be fucking great for the UK, that festival. Mm-hmm. There are loads of little things here and there. There's a tour next year that I can't announce yet with a very big black metal band from Europe. That we are doing, and there's a few other things in the pipeline as well. We've on a decent trend now where we sort of playing slightly bigger shows and with international touring acts and things like that. So you'll probably see us out and about, wherever we get to. Hopefully, just want to say thanks to anyone. Really, thank you very much, and thanks to you, Cheyenne. Thank you very much.
It's always a pleasure, man. Yeah, really. Thank you for coming on to the show. It's been a real fucking cool chat. And
very hot the whole way through, very hot, but that's not your fault. I'll let you off.
Oh, I thought it was. I was hoping you would say it was my fault that it's hot.
I'm not sweating because you're on the screen, Cheyenne. I'm sweating.
I feel like a few people might be, or at least I hope so anyway. Yeah, so...
we will play some shows together. I'm sure we will play some shows together. I promise we'll play some shows together.
Yeah, we're already doing one. We've already done a few, and I'm sure there's going to be more. Yeah, let's keep
talking about doing something else, and we'll solve that. We'll solve that in the new year.
Yes, yeah. We will talk about the something else very soon. Just before we go off as well, is there anywhere people can keep an eye out on these album announcements which you mentioned?
Just on the Candlelight Records stuff, Instagram and all the rest of it. And then my Instagram is Abduction 616. You will find me on there, and you won't find any pictures of my face.
Right. Yes, because this has been
a screenshot of this conversation, maybe when I post it, it's being uploaded. But
that's it. Yeah, no, I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much for the chat. I'm very much looking forward to what you've got coming up. And to everyone who's listened this far to the podcast, thank you very much for giving us your time. And we hope that the two of us have provided you with a very insightful conversation. And be sure to check out Abduction on their upcoming releases. And I will see you guys on the next episode of Iblis Manifestations. Cheers.
Thanks, man.